My first trip. Incredible and peaceful. Psilocybin. I had my first proper trip about a week ago and wanted to share. Took about 2.2 grams in tea. It's hard to really put it all into words, but there was a single moment that really stood out to me. I was relaxing on my bed with my cat. She was sticking pretty close by me, so I wonder if she knew I was under the influence thinking face. I curled up and put my face against her soft tummy, and shut my eyes. And then she started purring. It was like a big, loud purr that completely overwhelmed all my senses. Like I felt completely absorbed by it. It was dark and all I could feel was her soft fluff, and this purring noise. I truly felt like I was a newborn kitten. It was one of the most calming, amazing experiences ever. I was like, this must be what it's like to be a little baby kitten, eyes closed, and your entire world is the warmth of your mother, and hearing this big purr. I was basically crying LMAO, I felt so connected to my cat. Anyway, that's basically all I wanted to share, LOL. Oh, and also, the first 2 times I did shrooms, I was on duloxetine and had 0 effects. So I think it must interfere with how your body reacts to the psilocybin. Entering the 4th dimension shrooms, smiley face. Psilocybin. Going to try my best to describe this, but I'm sure you know how that goes, face with tears of joy, face with tears of joy. Setup, 3.5 grams golden teachers that I had grown, they were the last of a flush, so very large, a little over a gram apiece. 2 bowl packs of Willie's Reserve Cocoa Hybrid. Ingestion method, I've tried Lemontech and a few other methods, but what I've found works best for me is chewing the mushrooms soft, then letting them sit in my mouth and my saliva breaking them down. I usually give it 10 to 15 minutes. No rush, just into they are 90+% broken down. The theory here is that it absorbs much more effectively this way as opposed to being swallowed immediately. Objective, I've recently been studying Jose Silvia's mind control method. I'm also a big fan of Osho and Joe Dispenza, if anyone is familiar. I meditate daily, and have each of these people have their own take on chakras, kundalini, alpha brain waves, and what is capable when harnessing this energy. My goal here was to use a Joe Dispenza breathing technique to raise energy into my pineal gland from my spine, up the chakras, kundalini for those that follow those terms. I've reached alpha brain wave frequency and am quite comfortable, and found some truly incredible things with Jose Silvia's mind control. I wanted to truly push what was possible in this energy state with the assistance of psilocybin. Thanks for your patience with me getting to the point, LOL. Outcome, ingest the mushrooms, start a Joe Dispenza YT video on the breathing technique and smoke 2 bowls back to back. I have a small bubbler, note, I microdose, but took a week off for this, also only smoke once a week and saved it for this, so no tolerance for either. Go to the bathroom, fill up my water glass, set up my phone with a long binaural beats pineal gland activation video on YouTube. Just needed something with a steady beat to help focus my energy. Sit lotus position on my grounding mat and begin. I was very focused on reaching my level. Jose Silvia's term for alpha brain waves, I would like to estimate a good 40 minutes was spent here. And although I was very relaxed, and in alpha brain waves, I was still here in terms of psychedelics, LOL. This is where it gets interesting though. I lay down and focus my energy on releasing all tension in my body, and feel the energy in my breathing. Osho had a word for this, it's like understanding the life force of breath. I slowly begin to slip away from reality entirely, the neurons and electrical activity in my brain ramping up or emitting energy. I could feel myself as energy. The whole universe was no longer the 5 senses, but rather a fabric of time and energy. I felt myself go through some mental blocks during this process. Ultimately, it felt as a new dimension, one only expressed in frequency and waves, and all matter, people, time, etc., was expressed in this way. Time could not be processed as linear as everything was happening at once. In a quantum sense, all possible realities could be expressed infinitely. It was remarkably relieving in a weird way. I've never feared death per se, but I felt assured when I die I will return to this dimension of energy only to be placed again and experienced a new life. One that in this place was already happening. I could feel the connections of everyone I'd ever met, every experience felt intuitively as an energy. It was blissful and comfortable. I went into this with the purpose of asking the mushrooms for guidance, feeling lost lately, although on the right path wanting to refocus. This experience has calmed and focused my energy. I had a great appreciation for life today, and a new energy to carry me forward. It will take me some time to truly process what I experienced. Like Huxley's The Doors of Perception, I feel like the curtains of reality were peeled back for me to see, only to be closed again. Hoping to bring back with me what insight I can. This has revived my trust in the universe again, and I wanted to share this. Thanks for joining me, smiley face. My first trip was beautiful, and I want to live it again. Psilocybin. Hi all. First time poster here, wanted to share a story from my early 20s when I tried shrooms for the first time. Typically I only stick with uppers like Coke and Adderall, and I think it's because I need to be in control and feel like the best version of myself. I have only done shrooms twice, nothing else on the side of psychedelics, but I would like to. I tend to get anxiety at the thought of doing them today, but I'm starting to get the itch to do it again, because there are times in my life where I need to just let go of control. In my early 20s I never gave all that much thought. I had just left my boyfriend of 5 years, met a new group of friends at a karaoke bar and was off to the races. Shortly after meeting this group of people I was invited to trip with them. We went to a beautiful beach off the Great Lakes, we had a sitter, we were drinking, then our sitter weighed out the doses, and we took them. I knew it was going to take a while, but this one girl in the group who was really the worst did not believe that and took a double dose, fought the sitter about going back to her car to drive home, and ended up calling her mom crying to come get her. Once her mom picked her up the shrooms started kicking in for me. The first thing I noticed was my phone was a little distorted. I was looking at a photo of a guy I liked at the time on Facebook talking about how beautiful he was, then me and 2 other girls were talking about how beautiful each other were. One of the guys promised me and this other girl look into each other's eyes for 3 minutes without looking away cause supposedly that's hard to do. We did it, and we started making out. The sky looked super colorful, it really was the perfect setting. When the peak started to happen and the sun was starting to set, me and my then friends got on top of this big playground structure, and were going through it and stuff which was so fun. I then climbed to the top, looked over the water, and just started singing. I absolutely love singing, it was one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen and I still remember it all vividly to this day. Eventually we departed and I left with the sitter who I was sort of dating at the time. When I got in the car he gave me some headphones and I had my iPad with me. I was really big into Alkaline Trio at this time. I especially remember listening to Dorothy by them, and there's an insect sound in the mix of that song that sounded absolutely magical in my ears. We got back to his place, we fucked. I was so happy, I messaged so many people in my phone telling them how much I loved and appreciated them. I'm typically a negative, sometimes outright mean person who tries to mean well, and on shrooms I got to escape being negative. I wasn't bogged down on negativity and anger for the first time in my life. I figured out that deep down I am a loving person who is just mad at the world at times. I did shrooms one time after this and it wasn't nearly as good, just a meh experience. I wasn't in a good setting with the right people. It's been a few years and I really want to try them again, thinking of renting out a cabin for my birthday in a few months and going for it. I took a few days off for my birthday. I really want to recapture the first time or have something close to it. 1.5 First trip, as I remember it. Psilocybin. My initial thought going in was to expect something strange, yet understanding full well, I had no idea what strange is or would be. Filled with hubris after some profound research into the task ahead of me, I downed the dried weight and chased it with a glass of water to sweep away the unchewed shards affixed in my mouth. I noted that it resembled the texture and flavor of extremely stale, inexpensive cereal, but was pleasantly surprised that given the sickly look and stale funk of the material, the flavor could have been much worse. With that vote of confidence, I moved into the living room to wait for whatever would befall me. Alone in this big house, the only sound apparent is the subtle breathing of the home with occasional wind gusts that whoosh against the far side and seem to splat on the windows. Everything inside is still. I sit on the couch and gaze out the large picture window into the yard. Outside, however, the fall bluster and gloom steadily remain unchanged with no intention to clear. The feelings begin. I am met equally with a new warmth and coziness sweeping through my muscles, only matched by a dull nausea creeping from up my belly, grossly tickling me behind my jaw. With the sickly waves, my breathing becomes slightly heavier and strained. I try not to fixate for fear of vomiting. Breath in slow. Breath out heavily. As if poured from the top of my skull, down my throat, and into my belly, I felt the now familiar come-up, a twinge of warning and giddiness that makes itself present in the moments before takeoff. It's happening. I felt excitement for the familiarity of the feeling, despite never having felt it, and beamed a little as I looked onto the lawn for something to happen. I sat with a stoned glare on the lawn, squinting my eyes as though I was trying to see past reality. I watched the sod subtly wave, moving fluidly with peaks and valleys like water, with little white spots occasionally popping up to the surface to sparkle before disappearing back into the blades. The whole acre became noticeably verdant under the tempestuous and cranky skies, a dominating sea of green capped with a wild gray fluff. The feeling from noticing the clouds' mood seemed to make everything quite awkward, so I thought it best to take a break and draw myself a bath. As I stood up and walked toward the bathroom, my legs struggled and clopped down to the floor. Gravity, it seemed, had shifted 45 degrees, and I was clumsily trying to trudge up a mountain to the bathroom. The complete change in physics threw me off so bluntly that I began to laugh uncontrollably as I sloppily moved one foot in front of the other, with my shoulders and head in tow. The more I moved forward, the force pushed back against harder, until I felt my face being pulled backward like a roller coaster. Time slowed, I slowed. My movements and I became heavier and heavier, pushing harder through the long journey to the hallway. Here. Finally. I noticed gravity returning to normal. I took a moment to mentally dust myself off and look for scratches while I examined my hands and legs for anything amiss. Check. All is well. Thinking I've gained my bearings, I continue to move, instantly stopped in my tracks. My vision has altered into only seeing the world as a 2D geometrical painting. The third dimension was lost, all depth and contour erased. Architectural details and hardware all reduced to their dominant color and rudimentary shapes. I slowly crept my way to the bathroom, not being able to see where my feet, hands, or body were at any point. Fear and fascination were bubbling in synchronicity, loving the twist and unexpected weirdness, but fearful that this particular brand would dominate the rest of my day. Upon stepping over the threshold from the hardwood onto the tile, life came back into shape. The room was back to normal with exception to the wallpaper, which had interesting depth both inside and out. I stared at it for a moment in fascination and remembered I had come here to take a bath. With the lights off, the room was filled with the gentle, dark, natural light of fall, and I sat on the edge of the tub, loaded and content, drawing myself a bath. My hand was slowly swirling the water to keep the temperature even when I realized the empathy I was having for myself in this moment. I was doing something nice, comforting and caring. This is what a grandmother must feel like, I thought to myself. The realization of which was so dumbfounding that I was completely lost in self-hilarity, laughing in an unfamiliar way and covering my face in embarrassment, from myself. Bath drawn, I dip in and sit with my hands hugging my knees as I look up and around me. I feel small in size, like a child, while I'm filled with a specific feeling directly from childhood, a giddy feeling. The feeling one gets when holding on to harmless secrets hiding under the sink, tucked with my knees in my ears, listening in the dark, and watching the light dance through the crack in the cabinet doors as people pass. No one knows where I am, only I know where I am. It is my secret, and this is that feeling. This realization makes me nostalgic, which in turn gives me a sense of self-love. Of love. From others. To others. I am loved and I love them. Come to think of it, there are more of these people in my life than I had paid attention to. The feeling is profound and wonderful. I instantly tear up from joy and humility from the realization. The emotion is heavy, yet beautiful, with tears being pulled out of my eyes like a loose thread unraveling a sweater. After settling back to some normalcy, and having slowly got myself dried and dressed, I made my way to the kitchen to feed a hunger moaning in my stomach. I came across a basket of strawberries. The seductive red was oddly striking, and I contemplated if they were too beautiful to eat. As I picked one up to examine it, the texture was that of silicone, synthetic and springy. I popped it into my mouth and hesitated to chew at the plastic, toy-like feel in my mouth. Tastes like a strawberry. I only eat a couple because the mental barrier of eating plastic makes the whole ordeal feel complicated and overwhelming, instead choosing physical comfort and abandoning sustenance. The remainder of the day I was reveling in the prior experience, grateful for a break from my inner negative speak, blown back by how time seemed to hang in the air, and beaming off the loving feelings I was reminded of.